Some of you look better today than you looked last night, actually. How many of you got a good night's sleep? Yes? Excellent. And then get something to eat this morning? Kinda? I heard breakfast is not a thing in Texas. Is that possible? An entire state has stopped eating breakfast. I want to clean up a bit of business from last night. First of all, thank you very much for all the great feedback on my talk. I certainly appreciate it. I wasn't supposed to be on stage this morning, but we wanted to provide a little continuity between last night and today. Last night during my talk, we put up a QR code, and I want to explain that a little bit more in detail for two reasons. One is I usually talk about it when it comes up, and I neglected to do that last night, so we're going to give you another chance at it today. And there are two reasons for this. One is it's great feedback for me. I've been in the speaking business now for 30 years, but I never get tired of asking people, how did I do? And more particularly, how can I improve? There's a little form in this app that allows you to give me that kind of feedback, including whether or not you need a speaker in the future. I don't charge Rotary for talks, and Rotary found out. And that's how I end up at a lot of Rotary events speaking. And it's my pleasure to be here pro bono. But I'm also open for business. If I can help your company or your organization or help you in any way, I certainly want to do that. That's the first reason I wanted to talk about this again. The second reason I wanted to talk about it again is because you, as a Rotary Club, need to constantly evaluate how are we doing. And who's the best person to ask about that? Someone said members. Who else? Who else could you ask? Guests. Competitors, good, other clubs, not only other Rotary clubs that are doing it better than you, other service organizations that have bigger clubs than you, not bad. My favorite people to ask are the visitors, because they've never experienced it before. They'll tell you what's weird. The members are used to the weird. You with me? But the visitors say, you know, that didn't really resonate with me. And don't be defensive. Ask them, why not? Tell me more about that. How could we do it and do it differently and better and make you feel more comfortable? It's not all actionable, but it's all good information. So those are the two reasons I wanted to give you another chance at this. Also, you're going to get a free presentation checklist. If you do presentations of any time, you'll get a free list automatically from me when you click the QR code, fill out that little form. Thank you very much. It's my pleasure this morning to introduce my better half, my wife, Rene. And all the young people in the room are smiling like you actually know what it's like to be married. But you have that to look forward to, actually. Are any of the Rotaractors married? Not so far yet. Some of them, hell no. You have that to look forward to. I came into this marriage, my only marriage, late in life. Rene has changed me as a person. And one of the ways that she's changed me as a person is how I take care of myself. And I was living a pretty good life before. So she's going to help you with similar issues today. Maybe even issues you didn't know you had. I think a good speaker will introduce you to problems or challenges you didn't even know you had, and then she's going to help you solve them, if not totally, at least partially, during her talk today. Rene has a culinary arts degree. She's a peptide certified, as a certification in peptides, and can help you with those if you do them. And perhaps most importantly, she spent a lot of time with people like Dr. Peter Attia and Dr. Robert Lustig. These are the foremost people in the United States on nutrition and taking care of yourself and sleep and wellness. And she's going to synthesize everything that she's learned in her hours with these people, studying them. She's going to convert that into information that you can use today. I think you're going to be very happy with her talk. Ladies and gentlemen, my wife, Rene Caruso. And this is Rene's little book, so if you're interested in more information, you can certainly get it from her. Good luck, honey.
Thank you, sweetie.
You want to use this?
No.
Okay.
Good morning, District 5730. Ooh, we're a little hot. Yeah, there's a lot less people in here this morning than there were last night, and I'll read into that either people like to dance and drink a lot more than they want to have breakfast and learn about what to do maybe afterwards to counter that. I've met a number of people here at the conference that this is their first time doing anything outside of their club. For those of you in the room, how many of you, this is the first time ever going to a district conference or something outside of your Rotary Club? Nice, nice. And you're enjoying it, I hope. it really gives you a bigger perspective and a broader feel for what Rotary is and what Rotary could be and how you might be able to contribute to it. I first learned about Rotary when I was in grade school. We were having dinner at some friends of my parents' home, and they had a Brazilian exchange student staying with them. So I was in 7th grade, and I had never heard of anything like this. This kid was all the way around the world, living with a family he had not met prior, that his parents didn't know. And for you young people, this is before we had internet, where we were, staying connected in the way that what the youth exchange is allowed to now. And the adventures that he had been on and the things that they still had planned for him, it just blew my mind that this was even a possibility. And I told my parents on the ride home, I want to be an exchange student. But by the time high school rolled around, that dream seemed very, very far away for me. I had been struggling with multiple eating disorders. I was anorexic, I was bulimic, I was about, at my worst, 89 pounds. My stomach was bleeding, and I was pretty sick. I was scared, and my parents were scared. Somehow in that haze, I still remembered the dream of wanting to be an exchange student, wanting to go away and experience something so unique and so special. So during that year, even with the eating struggles, I applied to be a Rotary exchange student, and I was selected. Now you can imagine your 15-year-old daughter who'd been struggling with a life-threatening illness comes home and says, yay, I got chosen to go to South Africa in 1980-81 during apartheid, an isolationist country. And my parents were not Rotarians at the time because my father was a millwright, and that wasn't one of the professions that was looked for in Rotary, and women weren't in Rotary yet at that time. But my parents trusted Rotary. And somehow their trust in Rotary helped me. It didn't cure my eating disorder, but it helped me look at something outside of what was going on with my eating disorder, which is difficult because eating disorders affect your brain and your chemistry and your body's ability to process everything. And that year abroad gave me new perspective. I still had difficulties when I was there, but I got to see the world a little bit differently. I had families that took great care of me, and little by little, my struggles lessened. Like I said, it didn't cure me, but to this day, I do believe Rotary saved my life as a teenager. And now I devote my life to helping people find their way back to health as much as possible. So I want to clarify, especially since we've got some students in the room for medical, I don't work in disease maintenance. I work in reversal, metabolic restoration. And the key underlayment of that, in most cases, has to do with nutrition and sleep and exercise and lifestyle factors that we all have the ability to impact right now today. So my goal today with you is to give you actionable information that you can start to implement right now, today, to affect some areas that maybe aren't working for you in your life. Does that sound good? All right, so we're going to cover a number of areas today, and these are things that we consider foundational in terms of your health and wellness, and that can make a huge impact starting tomorrow. You make some choices today, but you might even feel it tomorrow. Number one, you probably thought I was going to start with nutrition, but we're not. We're going to start with sleep, because sleep is foundational to every process in your body. If you're not sleeping, you're not firing cognitively, your body is not able to get into repair, rejuvenation, and then the rebuilding cycles. Your body has a lymphatic system, and during sleep cycles, your body works through toxins. Your brain has a toxin removal system called the glymphatic system. All of these things go through repair stages and cycles when you sleep. But it's one of the things that we tend to cut out when we get busy. and it's very, very detrimental to your health. You cannot out-exercise lack of sleep, and you cannot out-diet lack of sleep. Sleep is foundational. I think the longest running sleep deprivation study that was done, and this was done under medical supervision with a gentleman who was in the military, was 11 days. That's the longest. And if we compare that to somebody who can fast, the longest known fast is 438 days under medical supervision. So that's how important sleep is. So 11 days with no sleep, and to this day, that gentleman who was in the military says he's never been right. It was so damaging to his system that even trying to get back to a normal sleep cycle. So what are some of the things that you can start to do to help get more sleep on a consistent basis in your life so that you can start to build your foundation back up? One of the easiest things is you've got to make a plan. And I know that sounds crazy, but you got to make a plan. If you're going to be at conferences, Garen has probably had a crazy last couple of weeks. And you're not getting all the sleep that you need, and when you are sleeping, your brain is going 100 miles an hour. But if you make a plan and you start to look at, okay, what do I need to do consistently in order to have the energy I need to do the things I want to do as a Rotarian, as a mother, as a father, as a grandparent, so that I have energy in my life and I'm building up and not tearing myself down. The average adult needs 7 to 9 hours. Teenagers need more, babies of course need more, but the average adult needs 7 to 9 hours. Now there are some studies that show as we do get a little older in life, we tend to eat a little bit less, maybe we're moving a little bit less, and people that are elderly can get away with a little bit less sleep and still feel fine. But the average person needs 7 to 9 hours. And depending on how active you are, I need close to 9, sometimes 9.5, because of the amount of working out and things that I do and how I want to feel. But to do that, you've got to make a plan. You've got to schedule it. Needs to be on your calendar. You go to bed at a certain time at night, and this sounds like, well, that's easy to do, but how many of us are still watching late night TV or we're scrolling on our phones, and by the time we get to bed, maybe we got the TV on in the bedroom, and we're still not wound down because our body isn't ready to rest yet because we've been stimulating it, right? Light noise is a real thing. Blue light is a real thing. It stimulates your pineal gland at night, and that stops a hormone called melatonin, which is a hormone that's released telling your body it's time to rest, it's time to sleep. So when we counter that, we have difficulty preparing our body for sleep. So make a plan, get to bed consistently as much as you can. And even on the weekends when you don't have to get up at a certain time, try to get up within an hour of your normal waking period because our body likes routine. Our body gets very adjusted to routine, and the other functions that it's going to perform do better when there's a consistent routine it can rely on. Lowering the temperature in your room. So studies do show that just lowering the temperature in your room, I like it about 62 degrees. Michael likes it about 64, 65. But we sleep better when our body's a little cooler because it allows our resting heart rate to come down. It allows everything, the body temperature lowers. I know like last night, I wear a sleep tracker so that I can see how my body's performing and how my recovery is doing. There's a huge difference between 1 glass of wine and 2 glasses of wine in terms of what happens to my body temperature and my body's ability to get into a resting state. And I've experimented enough that even though I don't always want that second glass of wine, I know I'm going to have to compensate the next day for that as a result. Blackout curtains. If you don't have them, get them. Our eyelids are very thin for a reason, and it helps us get into a deep state of sleep if we can dim all the lights in the room. So even with blackout curtains, it's amazing, the little thing like the smoke detector, the fire alarm. So, love this hotel, beautiful. One of the things that I noticed is it's got one of those fire alarms that flashes in the rooms. And I woke up a couple times the first night going, what is that? Who designed that? That is just craziness. But if you can block that type of light out, so ambient lighting will disturb your sleep. When Michael and I first met and started traveling together, because sometimes we'll fly early in the morning, get in the afternoon, and have a little time to maybe take a power nap or something before we need to get ready for activities. And Michael had a sleep mask. And I didn't know him very well. And I'm like, well, that's kind of prissy sort of thing. I'm traveling with a guy who has a sleep mask, okay. But it works. It really works. I bought one, and I cannot tell you how much better my sleep is day in, day out. We travel with them. They're here with us now. It makes a huge difference when you're able to block out all of the ambient light that disturbs you. You have the ability to get into a deeper state of rest, which again allows you to repair, rebuild, rejuvenate. Outside of that, don't complicate it. Turn your devices off, turn the temperature down, get your body ready for sleep, and do it consistently. Any questions on that? All right, we're going to talk about my favorite topic. So I again want to just say, I work in metabolic restoration, disease prevention, and reversal. So a lot of the clients that I work with have type 2 diabetes. They've got autoimmune issues. They've got eating disorders or disordered eating, which means not as healthy of a relationship with food as they could have because of some habit cycles. And sometimes those habit cycles are just caused by stress. Sometimes it's hormonal. And working in that stage, what I'm going to share with you today is not designed to ever make you feel bad about food or choices that you make. That's not the goal. The goal is for me to help you get a deeper understanding of how you can impact the way you feel an hour from now, 2 hours from now, tomorrow, the next day. Because what you put in your mouth and how your body processes makes a difference. So food is code. It is literally has the power to communicate with your cells and upregulate or downregulate disease. But we haven't really been taught about that because food for the longest time, nutrition, hasn't really been taught in medical school. What does the average doctor get in training on nutrition?
Just a few hours.
A few hours. Our medical system is amazing with acute care. We have really figured out how to increase life, stretch out chronic disease management, but we still haven't really improved the quality of life in general for a lot of people. I looked this up this morning, we are ranked, as of 2022, 49th in life expectancy in the world, yet we spend the most on healthcare of any country. And we're expected to drop to 66th. And that's kind of frightening when you think about the fact that there's so many things we can do right now to make a difference on that. So if we start to look at food and how it can help and benefit, and how it can maybe turn some things around for people, what I want to tell you is this is not hard. You just start to make some decisions. I like to work the problem in reverse, where we've got a target over here and we've got a bullseye. And the goal is I want to be able to have enough energy to play with my grandkids, to take them to the park, to hang out, get on the floor and be able to get up, right, and play with my kids. to be able to cut the grass. My parents are getting up in years, and my dad wants to be able to cut the grass as long as he possibly can. It's a very important thing for him physically to maintain that. So when you set a goal, the goal is, how do you want to look, feel, and live? What are the things you want to do? And then we start to work the problem backwards. So if food is code, we think about it in terms of what do we need to put in our systems to have it function optimally. Now the challenge is, it's not the same for any two people. You can be a healthy vegan, you can be a healthy vegetarian, you can be a carnivore. My body processes red meat very, very, very well. It's just a matter of what do you want, how are you going to do it, and then what do you need to do consistently to support that goal. So if food is code, and we start to look at what are some of the things that you can do to consistently help yourself feel better, the number one thing, we asked Garen about this yesterday. I guess in Texas, breakfast isn't a big thing. Is that just a generic statement? No, it is a big thing. Okay, okay. Because breakfast matters. Breakfast is, your grandma was right, and your great-grandma was right. It is the single most important meal of your day. It sets your insulin, because if your body's gone through everything it needed to the night before, repair, rejuvenation, and rebuilding cycle, you're dehydrated, and you've used up your resources. So you already wake up in a state that you're ideally in some form of a ketogenic state, because now your body's working on its real resources, on fuel, but we need to stop that drop. So that first meal of the day is so, so, so important. And it should consist predominantly of protein, some fat, and some plant fiber. Because this is how we're going to get some macros versus just junk food. And again, I don't want to demonize food in any way, shape, or form. Food is something that is so private for so many people, as well as it's festive and it's celebratory. So we don't have to have good and bad, right and wrong. We just look at how do we focus on nutrients versus calories, right? I think that's also a big misconception. So if we focus on macronutrients, the guideline for women is 30 to 35 grams of protein in the morning, your first meal. 30 to 35. Guys, 40 to 45. My morning is 40 to 45 because of the type of exercise and that I do consistently. So my protein intake is a little bit higher. The average woman only gets somewhere between 60 and 70 grams of protein a day. And that's simply not enough for our body processes. So we need at least 100 grams, women, really focus on that. 100 grams, starting in the morning, 30 to 35 grams of protein for breakfast. And ideally, it's going to be complete proteins. If you eat animal-based protein, eggs, like 3 eggs is only 21 grams of protein. So we've still got some room in there to have some meat, some plant fiber. I usually start my day also with half an avocado and some fermented food, because then I'm also getting my plant fiber and I'm getting gut health activated in the morning to really get things going. Breakfast like a king or queen, lunch like a prince or princess, and dinner like a pauper. So we don't always do that, like had a great steak last night, but we want some time between when we finish eating our last meal and when we're going to bed, so that our body is not spending time digesting food at nighttime instead of the rebuilding, rejuvenation, and repair cycles. Does that make sense? So a good 2 to 3 hours. And breakfast you want to have within about 2.5 hours of waking. If you're somebody who's like, oh, I can't eat in the morning. I have no appetite in the morning. You've trained your body to do that. And what you've done is you've trained your body to lower its metabolism. So when you do start to look at it from a functional standpoint, you can retrain your body and do that by starting to, I don't want to say force feed yourself, but start to bring the food in the morning little by little. You may not be able to start with 30 or 35 grams of protein. You may need to be able to start with just 20, but get that habit in there and get your body reaccustomed to a fuel source to get the day going for you. Another thing, 2 to 3 meals a day is all we really need. Now, it's a little bit different for younger people doing a lot of sports, if you're an athlete, if you're training for some specific event, but we don't need to eat every couple of hours. That was something that was very popular, and I did competitive natural bodybuilding for a number of years. I ate 9 times a day. So I would actually wake up at 2 a.m. in the morning and had a protein drink by the side of my bed because everything about that was designed to just burn, and not store anything. But that's very hard on the metabolism, and it's not designed to be sustainable. It's designed for a period in time. So the reason we only really need like 2 to 3 meals a day is because in between the meals, what we're looking for, or how I train my clients when we're looking at reversal, is the goal is a level of insulin stability throughout the day so that we can fuel the body, get the food in, get the energy from it, and let it get back to its other processes. The challenge that happens is when we're feeding ourselves every couple of hours all the time, is your insulin never gets back to baseline. So you're up and down, up and down, up and down. Anybody ever get hangry? So that's often a sign of either you've gone way too long without enough food, but when you start to dip into that hypoglycemic state, that's actually really, really hard on the body. But over time, when you're only eating 2 to 3 meals a day consistently and you're getting your macronutrients in there, your body stabilizes and it's able to start to work on its longest, most abundant fuel, which is our fat stores, right? We've all got fat stores that we can use to keep our energy going, but that insulin stability is a real key there. Another thing with regard to food is it's not always easy to control portions. We're America. Everything is big sized, right? Everything comes out gigantic. But it doesn't mean we need to eat all of it. So a really good rule of thumb is when you're looking at, let's say, fish, for example, that's usually about a 7 or 8 ounce portion. And this is going to be based on kind of your hand size. Now, if you've got gigantic hands, we'll adjust. But 7 or 8 ounces is about kind of that third ring, the first ring on your fingers, right where the line is. It's a good 7 or 8 ounce portion. So that's like fish. Chicken, you're going to come down a little bit, and that's about 5 or 6 ounces, which is good for men and women. And then if we're looking at red meat, it's the smallest portion in general, which is for women, so this is need, not want, is about 3 to 4 ounces, and for men, it tends to be about 6 to 7 ounces. But that's just a good guideline if you're not sure what you want. If you're not sure what your portion should be. And always start with the protein and the plant fiber, if you can. If there's carbohydrates on your plate, I know nobody wants to hear this, carbohydrates fall under what are called non-essential nutrients. So you can eat carbohydrates, but we don't have a mechanism that tells us when we're really full, because it's a non-essential nutrient. So protein, fat, and some plant fiber. Our bodies have mechanisms to kind of cut us off with protein and fat when we kind of get enough, but it doesn't work that way with regard to carbohydrates and sugar, which we'll delve into. Actually, we'll go. Junk oils. Sugar's next. Another way to break down food, and this is probably an easier way to think about it so that we don't have good, bad, right, and wrong, is we've got foods that are nutrients. And that means that when we eat and ingest these foods, our bodies can get something out of them, vitamins, minerals, fiber, fat, amino acids, right? Our bodies can actually glean something from these substances that we're putting in our body. And as it works through our body, through methylation processes and things breaking down, our body can convert that into energy. That's the goal. Nutrients are substances that our body recognizes right away, and it already starts to know where to parse it, even before we eat it. It's very interesting that you can actually train your body to crave things like eggs and steak, because when your body gets used to eating things that support it, that fuel it, it rewires what's going on kind of biologically, and your body starts to want that more and more. Then we have non-essential nutrients. And those are things like carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates and sugars, fruits. So it doesn't mean that our body can't use them, but clinically, the body doesn't need them to survive. Does that make sense? So you're saying no. So a potato, for example. Does a potato have some vitamins, some minerals, some fibers? And it has a carbohydrate starch load. So our body can use it for energy, can convert it, but it's not essential for the body's survival, like proteins and fats are, because there's not a big amino acid contingent to, say, a potato. So it's an alternative fuel source. Fruit is another good example. Fruit is something that our bodies can use and convert, but it's not essential for survival, even though it tastes good. Does that make more sense? We'll talk after. So when we start to put our meals together, what I like to help clients do is really start to look at what do you need to function more efficiently. The junk oils, the reason I wanted to share this, and this is just a good thing to take a picture of, is there's a lot of chemicals in our food supply nowadays that we don't biologically know how to, our biology hasn't caught up with the processing of it yet. So we're dealing with a lot of chronic issues, health issues, that are impacting people very, very negatively. We're seeing a rise in type 2 diabetes and all sorts of other metabolic diseases. And a lot of this has to do with what's called inflammation. I'm sure we've all heard that term over and over. And inflammation is free radical damage and chronic stress within the body, whether it's foodborne, stress-borne, lifestyle-borne. It raises inflammation in the body, and our body doesn't have the ability to process everything it needs. Junk oils are one of the things that's the easiest to cut out, and they're in everything. So look at your salad dressings and all that kind of stuff, and just kind of see if you can start to swap things out that are a little bit better for you. And then sugar. So sugar is not the devil. Sugar is something that, again, is a non-essential nutrient. There is no disease that is a result of not having enough sugar in your body, right? Just like there's no disease that is a result of not having enough carbohydrate in your body. So that's why it falls into the non-essential nutrient. Can you make really good choices with regard to fruits? And if you want a donut, for gosh sake, have a donut. But if you're going to go out and have that donut, maybe try to balance it out with some eggs or something else so that you can counteract maybe that sugar load that goes with it, and you reduce the cravings around that. And last but not least, movement and exercise. So if we look at 3 different areas that we can start to make improvements on right away, again, it's sleep, and we start to look at how can we just improve some of the choices that we're putting in on a daily basis to support us, and movement and exercise. Dr. Peter Attia, who's one of the foremost longevity doctors in the United States, has done extensive research and studies, and they have concluded that there is no drug or combination of drugs currently on the market that reduce all-cause mortality, so that's all causes of death, as effectively as movement and exercise. So movement and exercise are just a little bit different. Movement is about having periodic movement throughout the day. If you work in an office and you're sitting in front of a computer, try to get up at least every 90 minutes and just move. Walk around the office, do some air squats, walk around in the parking lot, just something to get the blood circulating versus just sitting there. And you can do that all day long when you're at a conference. It's very easy to kind of just get stuck and sit. Yes, sir. Just a squat, yeah. Yeah, it gets the blood pumping. So just moving throughout the day, getting things kind of activated and getting your blood pumping, it helps with brain chemistry and everything. And that's completely different than exercise, which exercise is designed to be structured, consistent movements that you do throughout the week. Ideally, depending on where you're starting, like if you're not somebody, you don't have to go to a gym to get in good exercise, but it's important that you have something that works on your cardiovascular VO2 strength. So that's about your oxygenation, your ability to oxygenate your body. So something that's cardio intensive, 30 minutes a week, something on another day that is strength based. So we need muscle strength as we get older. One of the largest areas in your body that has mitochondria, which is how we process oxygen in our body, is your muscles. So we need muscles to support our body and our structure, especially as we get older. It seems like maybe it's not that important. You don't need to be a big bodybuilder, but you want to be able to lift things up, lift your own body weight, get yourself. This is a great thing that I do when I'm working with clients who are just starting to exercise. So we get their cardiovascular endurance going just a little bit, and before they start lifting weights, I teach them how to get themselves off the floor. It seems like a crazy thing, but being able to get your own body off the floor makes a huge difference. And then eventually get yourself off the floor from one point of contact. So this is structural support and body dynamics. So 30 minutes of some form of cardiovascular work, 30 minutes of some form of strength training that forces your muscles to grow, and then 30 minutes of something that you really like. Zumba, something Pilates, yoga, something that you enjoy. Maybe it's walking your dog or being out with your neighbors or doing something else, but something that really brings you enjoyment with regard to exercise. So those are the three things that you can start working on today: improving the quality of your sleep, starting to look at your food in a more holistic, fuel, functional-based lens so that you can support yourself, and then increasing exercise and movement. Thank you all so much for having us here at this conference. If there's anything that I can do to help you on your journey to finding your way back to maybe a next level of health, or starting to look at even what's beyond that in longevity and things that you can do to maybe extend the quality of your days, I would love to help you. My contact information is up here. You can schedule a complimentary consult with me. And you also can download a free recipe packet thing that I did here, which is a way for you to kind of look at foods that you love, like tater tots is one of the things that's on there. And there's a recipe for a more nutrient-dense form of tater tots that you can enjoy. So things like that. Food doesn't need to be restrictive at all. And thank you so much for having us here, and I look forward to I look forward to working with anybody who needs some help, and if there's any questions. Yes, sir.
What are your thoughts about intermittent fasting, where you go at least like 14 hours between meals from the last meal and what day to the breakfast?
So it depends on why you're using it. So if you're somebody who is a type 2 diabetic and you're trying to bring a level of insulin stability back into your life, intermittent fasting, especially extended intermittent fasting, is a really, really good way to do it. To just do it without a purpose, I don't think it's as beneficial for most people. So if you eat within 2 to 2.5 hours of getting up in the morning and stop eating 2 to 3 hours before you go to bed, that's a great window of time for the average person. Every once in a while, if you want to extend that just to see how flexible your metabolism is. It's also a little bit different for women. So women who are pre in and post-menopause, it's harder on their system in general because of what's going on hormonally. So I don't necessarily recommend it for a long stay, like a 16-hour, not consistently. And one of the other things about intermittent fasting is people lose weight on it, and it kind of got touted as this is a great way to lose weight. It's not really the benefit. The benefit is about cell turnover and autophagy in our body and letting the body do what it needs to do to repair itself, not necessarily lose weight.
Renee, a question?
What is your opinion about balance of nature?
Can you be more specific?
It's a program where you take 3 vegetable capsules and 3 fruit capsules. It's a nutritious program for those that don't eat enough vegetables and fruit.
So in lieu of food.
Yes.
In lieu of food. I don't know the components of it, so I would have to just look at what's in there. I'd be interested in binders and fillers and the nutrient density of it. So are you really benefiting your body with these phytonutrients in a capsule? Are they getting to where they need to, or are they being destroyed by gut acid? Right? Are they liposomal, which means they can get into our intestines and actually get to where they need to? So all those factors would kind of be things that I would look at before I'd say yay or nay as a support.
Speak to quiet time, prayer and meditation.
So, you know, it's interesting. People are always talking about how busy they are, and if you can just find balance. Balance is not a state of being. Balance is a skill set, and it requires constant adjusting. And I think that exercise, meditation, for me, exercise is a form of my meditation because I can get really lost in it. I think it's incredibly beneficial. And if we can't find 20 minutes in a day just to ourselves, I would say it's worth looking at your balance skill set. If you can't find 20 minutes in a day just for yourself, it's worth addressing because there's a cumulative load to that level of stress and what happens in the body. So I'm all for it.
One more question, Renee?
Renee, I wanted to ask you about daytime naps. I've heard good and bad.
I like both. So there are days when I don't feel I need a nap, and there are other days when I do. Sometimes it's a little longer than others. And the only thing I'd say around that is if you're so tired that you cannot keep your head up, right? Is there something going on with your sleep at night that is creating that level of need in the afternoon versus you just want a little power nap, 10, 20 minutes, sometimes it's an hour. If you need more than that, it usually means there's something else going on with regard to your sleep patterns, that you're not getting enough at nighttime. Great. Thank you. Yes, sir. Yep, I love it. We do it all the time. Oh, what do you think about reading before sleep? But now there's a difference. If you do it on a lit phone or a Kindle or something like that, it stimulates. So you don't go to sleep the same as if you're reading paper because it keeps the brain activated because of what's going on with the pineal gland. Yes, sir.
Apparently, a long time ago, it was cultural to have 2 sleep periods during the night. Do you have any thoughts on that?
It just depends on the person. So studies do show that, now we're not talking like people in military where things have to be very targeted, specific sleep, if they're lucky if they get 2 hours. We tend to do a little bit better if we can get all the stages of sleep within a specific cycle. And even if you need to get up to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, the part of you getting back into a sleep cycle, it's called latency, is how quickly can you get back into the sleep state, right? So if you've properly prepared your body and the temperature and everything's good, you should be able to lay back in bed and just get right back into sleep. And that's supposed to be more ideal for you. Great. All right, last question. Okay.
I'm a little confused on anything can be taken to an extreme, but could you elaborate a little bit on eating fruit?
Yes. So fruit is loaded with phytonutrients, phytochemicals, polyphenols. The challenge with fruit is we used to eat it seasonally. So if we look at animals, animals use fruit to fatten up for hibernation periods. We're doing the same thing. So we don't need a constant delivery of fruit 2-3 times a day. It doesn't mean there aren't some benefits of fruit, but the question is how much sugar load are you taking in lieu of other nutrients? So all fruits are made up of fructose and glucose. So glucose goes straight into our bloodstream, depending on what the fruit is and how much that raises our insulin levels, sugar levels. And fructose goes straight to the liver. So while you think you're healthy, you can eat so much fruit that, again, your insulin is out of whack and your body is storing fat instead of fuel. So it's a balance. If I'm going to eat an apple, I usually have some form of a nut butter with it. I have some sort of protein or a piece of cheese, something that takes that down. So fruit is good. It's just about the quantity, the dose. Right. Thank you, everybody.